Everybody, Mike Beer with stakes action for you on Saturday at Aqueduct. They're going to run the Queens County race number 8 on Saturday at Aqueduct. The Queens County $125,000 purse for older horses going 9 furlongs on the main track. It drew a field of 7. Let's take a look at the field right now. Pretty well matched field here. I feel like you have the morning line favorite in the race is number 2, Stan the Man. I think he is the horse to beat in here. Stan the Man is one of those horses who it took him a while to actually break through and win a race. But once he managed to do that, he's just gone on and actually put together a really solid career. He's not, a top class horse, but he fits really well in races like this. The distance is a little bit of a question for Stan the Man. I think it's worth pointing out that you're getting him off of a little bit of a layoff in this race. We haven't seen him since the beginning of June. And John Terranova, his trainer, was trying to get him to sprint on the way back. He entered him twice in the fall highway. The fall highway was canceled both of those days, so he didn't get to run. And then when they finally ran the fall highway a couple of weeks ago, Stan the Man didn't enter that time. He waited for this spot. They're going to try and stretch him out here and go a little longer off the left. He's been this far before. He's won over this distance before. He's just a rock solid horse, and he is the horse to beat in this field. I think it's an advantage to him that he has that good tactical speed. Let's look up the Timeform US pace projector for this race because, Stan the Man, they have him right out there on the lead in this spot. I don't know if I necessarily think he's actually going to be cutting the pace in this race. The number 4 in this race, Major Cabby, who is shipping in for Peter Miller, that horse has a lot of speed. I sort of felt like you might see him try to make the front in this race. But either way, if Stan the Man's either on the lead or Major Cabby is, Stan the Man's going to be right up close in this race, and he's supposed to fall into a pretty nice trip here. I have no problem with Stan the Man. I do think he's the horse to beat in this race, and I would be using him in any multi-race races. He just has rock solid form. The only time they went 9 furlongs with him was back in January over this track. It was an allowance race. He won that race very easily with a 96 buyer speed figure. He also got absolutely loose on the lead. He went right to the front. Nobody challenged him. And he just never really faced a challenge in there. Won it very easily, came right back to win again in his next start. And he was a couple starts later, finished a very good second in the Grade 3 Westchester going a mile. So he's a really nice horse. He likes this track. The layoff is a little bit of a concern, but he's supposed to get a good trip in here. And I do think he's the horse to beat. Major Cabby is the second choice on the morning line. I think you're going to see him on the lead in this race. We'll see how that all plays out. The deal with Major Cabby is he's turned into a totally different horse since Peter Miller has taken over his training this year. The improvement that he's shown is pretty obvious on paper. He won 3 of his first 4 dirt starts for Miller, all of them, right up with the pace. He tracked it off the layoff back in July, but his 2 wins at Keeneland in October, 19 days apart, Miller ran him in a couple of allowance races. He won both of them right on the front end. The first one of those, absolutely loose on the lead. The pace was not fast. He had that field in big trouble around the turn, and he blew him out through the stretch to win by over 9 lengths. The second one, I actually felt like he ran a little bit better. The figure dropped a couple of points, but he went a little bit quicker on the lead, it looked like that day, and he had that whole field chasing him from early on. He was never letting them into the race, and then he held off the deep closer all through the stretch. So I actually felt like he ran better in the second of those wins. And listen, they took a shot last time and ran him in the Grade 1 Clark against horses that are just too good for him. He couldn't make the lead that day. There was too much speed in there. He kept up close to the pace, though. And listen, he never looked like he was going to win. He was never a real factor in there, but he wasn't embarrassed by those horses. He got tired in the stretch, but he was in the mix for a long time in there. He did not run poorly. This is an easier spot. He gets this distance. I think the distance is going to be fine for him, and I do think he's going to be on the lead there. I think he's a major threat to the favorite in this race. I wouldn't even be surprised to see these 2 horses pretty close in price when it all comes down to post time in there, because Major Cabby's in good form, and there's a lot of things pointing to him running a good race here. One other contender to touch on real quick is Backside of the Moon. It's only because after Rudy Rodriguez claimed this horse back in August, it seems like Rudy got this horse back to some of his good races. I don't even know if his best race makes him a major player in here, but it's going to give him at least a look. Rudy got this horse back to some good races. He's won 2 in a row on the way in here. It's worth noting he's no longer racing for Rudy Rodriguez. He was claimed for $100,000 out of his last race. This is a horse who's about to turn 8 years old. So, dipping in for $100,000 is a pretty good sign of confidence for his new connections. Backside of the Moon will get this far. He likes Aqueduct. He's got some really nice races on his card. We'll see if he can show up with one of his very best ones, because it feels like he's going to need one of those to beat this field, but he's probably going to be an okay price in this race. So I won't argue too hard against anybody who likes him, but I am going to go in a different direction with my top pick. I'm looking for a little bit of a better price. And I was just looking to go outside of the favorites with a horse who maybe is a little bit better than he looks on paper. We'll see what happens with number 1, Romy Union. He's going to be my top pick in here for Michelle Nevin. I think this horse really improved. Nevin claimed this horse back in July for 62.5. And, you know, he's only run twice for her, but I think he's really run well in both of those races. The first time, Nevin stretched him all the way out to 1.5 miles. And he wound up finishing 6th that day, but he actually didn't run that poorly in there. And I think it's worth noting that that was a day when the rail was really good at Belmont Park, and this horse was never near the inside. So that performance is maybe a little better than it looks, and that distance feels like it's probably too far for him anyway. And his next start, she dropped him back down in class and cut him back in distance. He caught a sloppy track, which is no problem for him. But I actually felt like he ran one of his better races that day. He got a very aggressive ride, I thought, from Johnny Velasquez. Dueled with American Tattoo for a long way in there. He ultimately settled for 2nd in there, but I actually felt like he ran a really nice race there. The aggressive tactics, I think, suited him. He's got a great post on the inside for this race. He has already won twice over this distance at Aqueduct in his career, so that's no problem for him. I just feel like he might be in sneaky good form. He's going to be a price in this race, and he should get a good trip. He's got tactical speed from the rail in here. So if Stan the Man and Major Cabby are going to go out there looking for the lead, this horse just might fall into a really nice trip right behind them. I'm going to take a shot with Romy Union in the Queens County at Aqueduct on Saturday. It's race number 8. The approximate post time is 3:46 Eastern time. Good luck.